Hey, welcome. Today we're going to be looking at some of these artworks and reproductions of medieval peasant life. So let's jump into that. As a reminder, try to keep an eye on the different the differences from the Roman period, the similarities from the Roman period, if there are any similarities to other periods, particularly the primitive structure period, and then also think about how the living in these types of places might have had an impact on people's health. Okay, so we'll jump into the first one. Now, this is an image of some Russian peasants. Looks kind of happy here. So, a couple of things I want to note about what's going on here. So the first thing to notice is that you've got a large number of, looks like, adult men here. Now, that's fine. Maybe they're just together having having a boys' night. But at the same time, you have the children playing in relatively close proximity, as well as the the woman of the dwelling, taking care of the baby, nursing the baby right there. And all of this is going on in basically the same area. So it looks like they're kind of having a good time, but it is worth noting that this is a pretty small space. Now, this is actually seems to be a fairly well-constructed peasant dwelling. What we've got over here, you can see the fireplace, and maybe you picked up that there was a Roman arch there for the fireplace, and, the stone structure making the chimney like so. However, it is worth noting that that even with this this method of removing smoke, if you're going to get your heat this way, you are going to be breathing in somewhat smoky air. Like, even the best chimneys are not going to take away all of the smoke. Okay. Another thing that maybe you picked up on, it's unclear what they're drinking, but It probably is some sort of spirit or beer, and maybe you might have thought that was water, and it's possible that it is, but I suspect it's probably some sort of alcohol, because alcohol was actually one of the things that was used to sterilize water. So alcohol was healthier in some ways because it did kill some of the germs in the water. So you could more reliably, you wouldn't get sick as often from alcohol, as long as, of course, you didn't drink too much of it. But one of the main things to take away from this one is, one, the lack of space, two, the fireplace near the common area, and three, just the number of people that are kind of crammed into this little area here. So this next one, I like this one the best, I think, because I think this is actually probably a more accurate representation of the early medieval period. So what you've got here is you've got some sort of, looks like probably some sort of fire, but without a real dedicated fireplace. So probably, you might have a small hole in the roof to allow the smoke to escape, but if you don't have real access to stone structures, it's going to be hard to make a dedicated fireplace, but you still need the fire to keep the home warm. So, that's what you'd have, and you just have to deal with the fact that there was smoke. Now, again, I do like this one in the sense that there are a number of people crowded around this table, including the baby. So this is basically the only room in this dwelling, and you've got all these people living there. Also, another thing to notice, no chairs. They're sitting on the floor, and the thing they're using for a table is probably just something that's, a little bit simpler to construct, doesn't require as much construction from the tables. Now, I think one of the best touches here is the fact that you've got what looks like cows living in the dwelling with them. Now, that is probably going to have a major impact on their health, because animals don't control their bodily functions very well, among other things. You could also have pests coming in with the animals that could carry diseases. But basically, this is going to be not a very clean dwelling, just because you have open fires and you have animals living in it. Another thing to notice, Looks like you have some sort of skinned animal or dead animal hanging there that they're probably going to eat that eventually. So again, not a real dedicated space for preparing food. It's all kind of, or sleeping, it's all kind of the same area. And this this will probably have a negative impact on health just because things are not going to be as clean. And that is one of the changes we saw from the Greek and Roman period. We saw there were definitely dedicated spaces for having for food preparation and things like that in the diagrams we saw of those structures. Okay, so let's go on to this one. This one's fairly simple, but I did want to note the fact that the roofs are very clearly no longer made of wood. The walls probably still are. It looks like particularly these ones, although this structure right here does not look like it's made of wood. But the roofs have gone back to being grass roofs. Now, this is one of the things I think is real important to pick up on, is that technology and building technology definitely regressed. And that's not just, like I said, it's not just building technology. All sorts of technologies regressed. But we can see it in sort of the regression from using wooden roofs to these simpler sort of grass and thatch roofs that we saw before. It's not to say that there were no developments in thatch roofs. They probably figured out how to do it a lot better. But it is sort of a backward step in roofing technology. Okay, so there we go. All right, so this is a Van Gogh painting, and I kind of like it just for the sense of smallness and darkness it gives. Now it's a little bit difficult. We can't really tell what the roof's made of. I'm guessing grass just from the way it's shaped, but we also notice that there's only partial windows on these things, so it's probably not very well insulated from the cold. It's small. There does not seem to be multiple rooms on this thing. So, we're having real issues. It's like I say, things have just gotten smaller. And Van Gogh does a very good job of sort of making this entire atmosphere look pretty foreboding. But nevertheless, it's still kind of what it is. So a second painting, another sort of good example of just sort of the dreariness, how everyone's kind of in one room. The floors, it's unclear whether they're made of wood or dirt. There's probably some wood there, but probably some dirt as well. The seating's very simple. Again, a large number of people crammed into a single space. So this is again just this. You're kind of losing this sense of big, wide open spaces that you had in Roman architecture, and really getting back to what was more primitive methods. And again, they probably had more expertise in how to build these things effectively than early builders did. But you're kind of getting back into that category here. So, whoops, wrong button. All right. So this is a reproduction, kind of showing what we've already seen. That as opposed to having stone and concrete walls, we've kind of reverted to looks like wood and maybe mud walls. I believe that's called wattle when you have that combination of like a wood mesh with mud on the sides, and then grass roofs as well. And these things are quite small. Probably not even tall enough to stand up in. So yeah, definitely sort of a reversion. And this is, like I say, this is something that people would live in after the Roman period. And then I kind of enjoyed this reproduction, although I think it's a little bit anachronistic just because of this glass lantern you have here. But I do like the sense in which you have very little light in this area. Like, you have this very small window to allow light in. It's not going to be a well lit open space like we were used to seeing with a lot of the Roman structures, like the Pantheon, or we didn't look much into Roman villas, but you had the same sort of thing where the purpose was to allow a lot of light in, to allow a lot of space. all these kinds of things. That stuff is gone in by the time you get to the medieval period. So, so I believe that is it. Oh no, we have one more reproduction, and I liked this one because again, it shows the grass roof, and you're back to using very small pieces of stone. It's not really shaped stone. It is these irregularly shaped stones that have been fit together in certain ways. You see the same thing with the walls there. But you do notice that they have retained this, they do really appreciate the idea of kind of getting these things to fit together well. And a little difficult to tell, but maybe even filling in the gaps a bit to make sure that, it's a little bit warmer inside. So so that would be the third reproduction. You can see wood, like a large wooden wall there. So it's a question about what that might be for. It might be there to keep out wildlife, like predators, wolves, things like that. But so there was lumber available, but it was probably used for other things besides making the houses, at least at this point. Okay, so this link takes you to another image. That image is copyrighted. Definitely worth taking a look at that one. But it's actually going to be very similar to what we saw in the second drawing. So take a look at that one. I think it's a good example. The fire's a little bit bigger, a little bit more roaring. So take a look at that one. Okay? And with that, we will call it good. So thank you for tuning in. Go ahead and go back, revisit the questions from part 1, and then go ahead and watch do your observations for the medieval castles, one of my favorite slideshows that I've made. So thanks, and we'll see you next time.